Hey, Meaningful Movers. Welcome back to Moving with Me in the podcast, where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. In today's episode, let's really talk about dedication. How sure are you about your efforts to continue a particular action, even with the risk? But you know how it is and what we do. We need to set that theme, so let's go ahead and do that. The word of the day is double down. This is to put further risk into a situation, or we can say to increase your commitment to a particular strategy which can be potentially risky. It's a well-known fact that we all struggle with some level of anxiety, and that can manifest in ways that we can't predict, but are also so disruptive, such as insomnia, fatigue, difficulty performing daily actions, and so on. So, when we find the one thing that works for us, we put all our reliance on that. What happens when you find yourself in a position that prevents you from being able to tap into that method? Well, that's enough of me talking. How about we introduce our guest? And there's no one better to do that than herself. Nita, why don't you give the people a bit of background about yourself and what you going to share with us today?
Well, thank you. I'm Nita Sweeney, and I'm an author, a coach, a mindfulness teacher, and a runner. I'm going to talk about what happens when you use running as a mental health tool and boom, you can't run because of a physical injury or a physical situation.
Okay. Well, I mean, your journey is something very interesting. It kind of ebbed and flowed, and you kind of just followed where the world took you. So you start off really as a very successful lawyer, right?
That's right.
Wow.
I was a partner long term. Lots of pieces of paper suitable for framing, which I still have those pieces of paper suitable for framing with little stars and certificates. I kind of like those things.
Yeah, of course. You had a great accomplishment, right? So you achieved partner at a firm in your late 20s, early 30s?
Yes, I did.
That's an amazing feat, my dear. Very.
Thank you.
So something happened in your last year in your career where you were asked to change something and you didn't realize you could say no.
Yeah, so part of the practice was developing clients, so finding clients, which is not my strong suit. The clients that were found for me were in an area of law I had not practiced. I was young. I had not yet had all the years of therapy. I wasn't on mental health medication. I was, financially supporting myself. And I didn't realize that I could say, that's a really bad fit, a really, really bad fit. And what happened was I went down a mental health rabbit hole. I went into a very severe depressive episode, which I believe now I would have handled that so much differently. I might still be practicing law. I don't know. But I'm conflict avoidant. I kind of hate conflict. Yeah. So being an attorney was not necessarily the best fit anyway. And the way I had managed that was by research and writing and finding the areas of law that I could do that didn't have direct conflict. But those last couple of years, I was asked to practice family law, divorce, dissolution, child custody, and it was very bad. And I also just, I wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't have those tools. So I wound up kind of collapsing inward and then eventually collapsing outward. I was hospitalized. I was suicidal. And it was almost as if if you imagine a machine where a spring pops out and then they can never find the replacement spring. Mm-hmm. That's a bit how it felt like, where I just fell apart and couldn't be put back in the same way. So I was rebuilt, but possibly stronger, but not the same. And so I ended up stepping away from that field. And I think that was a good thing. I'd always wanted to write, and I started writing then, but I wasn't really successful until many years later, again, having to find the right fit. Because I think that's a big part of where people have success that we don't talk about. There's a lot of luck and finding the right fit, finding the right timing. Mm-hmm. And that's what eventually happened, was good fit, good timing, hard work, tons of hard work. Let's not underestimate that. But yeah, the law was not for me. I had to crash and burn to find that out.
Yeah. Okay. So here's one thing I want to talk about. We're going to get to that timing because that leads into my next point that I think is just phenomenal. Okay. Just in the moment of where you were and how you were pulled out of this. But I want to say something about your explanation of saying no. So this was completely different the way that I look at saying no, and this was more about an area of opportunity. Right. So when I look at something I haven't practiced before, I have a hard time saying no because it's an opportunity for me to learn something new. And this was kind of the inverse of that. It was like, I didn't want this opportunity. And it looked like And it sounded like they thought you were qualified and capable. And maybe there was a disconnection of where before they offer that, they probably it would have been great. And I think this is a great message just for leaders in general, when they think their employees are performing so well that it's like, I'm going to give them this opportunity because I'm sure they would want that.
Right. And that's the way I presented. Happened? Well, that's the way I presented. And what I realize now is that it was a trauma response because I was so terrified of failing that I put everything into looking, I wouldn't quite say perfect, but capable, skilled, resilient, durable, ability, able to handle anything. That was my go-to kind of personality trait. And the truth was I was mostly terrified almost all the time. And there's nothing wrong with being terrified and doing it anyway, except when you do that for 10 years or really 13 years, because even through law school, I was terrified almost the whole time. And just ignoring the fact that you just feel like you're going to break all the time.
Yeah.
And so at some point that becomes a problem. And for me, I didn't do a bad job. I ended up running into one of my partners. He came to one of my book signings and he took me aside and he said, I just want you to remember that you were a really good lawyer. Because sometimes I think you forget that. I think you forgot that then, and I think you forget that now. And I really appreciated that because there was definitely some part of me that thought I had failed and, was ashamed of having left the practice and all those kinds of things. But now I realize that so much of what they saw was a facade. And when I'm confident now, I really am confident. When I step into a room and you can see that I'm supposed to be there, I'm supposed to be there. It isn't an act. And like I said, there's the whole fake it till you make it thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a skill that we can use. But there's a place where it goes too far. Yeah. And then that's where we crack. And that's what happened with me. I just cracked. I don't know how else to say it. I just got to the place that I could not walk into that building.
Yeah. Oh, girl. Yes. Yes. So speaking of the timing, we'll go right back to that. This depression hit you so hard and you were starting to experience different physical symptoms. And like you said, I can't go back to work. And it was hard to accept based on what you just said, that you were capable and kind of the level of personality traits that you were having. It was hard for you to accept not wanting to go back and do this job.
Yeah. I spent all those years in college.
Yeah.
I had the attorney at law after my name. It's a big deal. It's a big ego boost. And of course, there was a huge financial situation too, because I had bought the things that make you look like a lawyer in addition to having the job. I had the trappings. And so a lot of that had to be reworked, let's just say.
For sure. So when you mentioned that you were suicidal, and I'm just going to go real quick through this because timing of this is so important. You mentioned that you were just laying on the floor thinking about this. Right before you were going to do anything, the phone rang.
Yeah.
Picked it up. Who was on that phone call? And in that moment of honesty at that moment, something miraculous happened. Tell me about it.
So it was my therapist's office. I had a therapy appointment. I was supposed to be at their office in person. And I had forgotten, and they called to check on me, which is unusual because usually they might call you a couple of days later to reschedule or something. But because of the situation, they kind of knew this wasn't good. So they called me and I was able to pull myself together enough to go. I don't know if she asked me the right questions, but I was ready to just drop the facade. You get to a point where you just don't have the energy left to keep the mask on. Even though I hadn't been working for a few weeks, I had makeup on or I had nice clothes. I was not dressed in a suit or anything, but I was, very presentable. And I rolled into my pajamas that day. I was still wearing my jammies. I just rolled in my jammies, and she looked me up and down and she said, okay, let's talk about what was going on. And so I told her that I had a plan to end my life and that if her office hadn't called, I had planned to do X, Y, and Z. So she basically said, I'm going to call your husband. Well, she called the doctor in first because she wasn't a doctor. She was a psychologist. And she called the psychiatrist in and they asked me some more, that person asked me some questions. And he said, I really recommend that you go inpatient. Essentially, what they said in a very nice way is, you're not leaving the building alone. We can have an ambulance take you. Your husband can take you. So that's what they did. They really saved my life. And at the time, I thought it was ridiculous. I thought, oh my God, you're all overreacting. This is crazy. It's not that bad. Yeah, I was planning on killing myself. It's not that bad. So that's the denial part that you just get where you don't even realize. It wasn't until, I would say months later, till I really realized how bad it was, how,
Yeah.
scary it was. And my husband didn't realize it. He didn't really realize it either. He kind of went, what is going on here? And he was at work. He was still working then.
He was fooled, huh?
I was fooling myself as the main person I was trying to fool.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, I need a plan. I got to come up with, I'm not talking about it to kill myself, but a plan to how to financially figure this out, how to figure out a different job, how to figure out a way to keep it all together and keep the whole world from knowing that I'm falling apart, all of that.
Yeah. Just that section there, I think it's going to speak volumes, Nita. That's why I really wanted to pinpoint on that piece there. I think there's a level of honesty just in these moments that we stop trying to hide. And in that moment of authentic truth, we really find ourselves in a place where we start to awaken in a way of, I need to get some help. And so when you went and decided, hey, I ain't going back to law, like I can't do it, and I've accepted that part, you started writing, but you didn't publish any books for about a decade. Why?
Oh, I couldn't. So part of it was because of some of the medication I was on.
Okay.
And I didn't realize at the time. Part of it was because I had not a clue about how to write a book. Mm-hmm. You don't just sit down. Oh, this summer I'm going to write a book. It's actually not that easy, folks. Sorry. Maybe you can do it, but I couldn't. I mean, maybe for some people it is. I don't know. But it wasn't. Yeah. And again, it could be me just second guessing myself. I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted to say. I knew I wanted to say something, but it didn't occur to me that my mental health story was one of the best things I could share with people. That took many years to figure that out. And that's another timing thing. And I had a number of books that I wrote first drafts of, didn't publish. So 6 months after I was in the hospital for my own mental health situation, my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And the summer after that, he and I played golf because, I'd been traveling, I'd been working a lot. I saw my family, but I was really busy. And so I would never have spent an entire day on a golf course with him unless there were also clients with us. That happened sometimes when I was still working. So he and I played golf all summer the last year that he was alive. And so I'm actually currently, that was the first book that I worked on, and I tried to sell it and wasn't successful. And I'm actually working on that book again. But it wasn't until just complete fluke, I was on social media and I saw this high school friend wrote, "Call me crazy, but this running is getting to be fun." And I thought that was the singular most ridiculous thing I had ever seen, because the idea of running and fun did not equate at all. So I watched her for a while, and I had been on all these medications. I'd been trying to publish books. I'd been to workshops. I'd been to MFA school, got my degree, master's degree in creative writing, had a thesis that I'd tried to shop. Eventually started running, just jogging in the neighborhood, kind of undercover, and that changed everything. I know it sounds so crazy. Oh, that changed everything. No, folks, it really did. Because what happened was I finally had something that felt like an accomplishment. It sounds ridiculous. It's just 60 seconds of jogging or, for 5 minutes here on and off for like a 20-minute total interval. Eventually I did some 5Ks. My niece had died of cancer a few years before. And so there was a 5K for the type of cancer research that, the cancer that she died from. My sister talked me into running that. And then what was the shocker for both my psychiatrist and I started having the side effects of the people have who are on too much medication, which I had been on these meds for, 4, 5, 6 different meds on and off for years. Yeah. So they started reducing the medication. And when they did, my ability to think more clearly came back. My ability to finish things came back. The meds kept me alive. They really were. I absolutely needed them. But the running started to produce the neurotransmitters that I needed that helped. And so that's why when I talked about the introduction, that my latest challenge is I've had some heart issues and I can still exercise, but I can't do it to the level that I had been that was bringing me into the mental health place and the concentration place and the focus place that I really needed to finish books. I don't know, just feel confident. And so I'm finding kind of a new place where, okay, what's this going to look like now? Yeah. I've always been a meditator. And so I'm relying a little bit more on the meditation practice and the acceptance of who I am at this place in my life. This won't be where I am always, but that's been kind of the new challenge. So people want to talk about the fact that I was a lawyer and that I don't practice anymore. And that was huge. But lately, lately it's been, I was an ultramarathoner. I've done 3 full marathons, 3 ultramarathons, 38 halves in 25 states, all this kind of stuff. Now I'm walking around the block with my dog, and that's just who I am now. That's who I am today. It's interesting because I think the tool that I want to offer people is, I was just having a conversation with a woman who teaches resilience in a lot of different settings, but it's about that ability to accept where you actually are, even if it's not where you want to be at all, and then do a reality check. Can I really change this, or do I have to be here and accept that for now? If you can change stuff, get at it. But at some point you might have to say, all right, this is where I'm at for a little while. We'll just have to work with that, because that's the peace for me. And I mean, PEACE, peace of mind for me is being able to accept where I'm at and not fighting it, because sometimes you can't change it. Sometimes you can. And if you can't, man, go get it, because that's what I did. I changed it. But right now I'm at a place where I can't change it for a little while, and I have to be okay with that. So I sort of said the same thing 4 or 5 times, which is what I do. So
it's okay. It's okay. This is so interesting because, for me, I was on the medication. It's like you said, it felt like I was good. And then when you start to get okay and you're like, well, I'm on this medication, you got to start realizing when now you're quote unquote overdosing, because you've built up your defenses, your mental health, and all the great positive thoughts and self-talk that you didn't have before. So now it's like, when do we determine to go back, right? Like you said, you were experiencing those side effects. I think that is very similar to what you were doing with your running. So you thought, okay, now I'm going to drop back on my medicine because I found my coping mechanism. And then all of a sudden you had to draw back on that.
Yes, right. The biggest change I made was I had stopped having talk therapy. It's not just plain talk therapy. It's the EMDR is the one I have been doing lately. And I had pulled way back on that because it didn't seem as if I needed it. We haven't increased the medication again.
Good.
Right now, we're okay. But we're watching that really carefully, because if my mood dips too far, you kind of have to catch it before your mood dips. So I'm still on a medication. At one point I was on 6. And I think when I started running, I was on 4, and now I'm on a tiny dose of 1.
Yeah.
And so I'm still on that, and probably will be all of my life, but we're watching it to see, does that need to be increased? Do we need to add something else that might bump that up? Are there other forms of movement that are safe for me to do to give me that kind of boost that I get? Because for me, it's not just, there is the neurotransmitter physical boost, but it's also accomplishment of goals, where I print out a training schedule and put it on the back of a bookcase and check stuff off. Those are dopamine hits when I make that little check mark. Yes, I did that workout. So I just have to find other types of workouts right now. I just can't raise my heart rate too much. So I have to find other types of workouts. It's workarounds or modification, because I just have to be flexible with it. I wouldn't say I'm a rigid person, but I will definitely get in a rut and furnish it if it's comfy, cozy,
Yeah, for sure.
So that's the thing. And I have done that with the help of mental health professionals. Because I've gone off my meds on my own. I've gone off my meds with a professional's, I wouldn't say her blessing, but with her assistance, because she knew I was going to go off them anyway. It never went well for me. Yeah. There are plenty of people that can get off them and they're fine, but I will never tell anybody to do that. Oh, just go run, you'll be fine. Or just go, do Tai Chi or yoga or laser tag. I'm not going to tell people to do that. I'm not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm not going to tell you. I mean, really, if you need meds, you need meds. But I think most people also need some kind of movement. I mean, I need 3 things, 3 main things. I need movement, I need meditation, and I need writing as a practice. So some people call it journaling. It's a little bit different, but I need those 3 things. It's like a 3-legged stool. If you've ever milked a cow, you've probably sat on a 3-legged stool. It's the most stable piece of furniture there is. It's a 3-legged stool, because it doesn't matter. Even if one of the legs is shorter or one of the legs is wobbly, those 3 legs will be stable. And I need those 3 things. So it's kind of body, mind, and spirit, you can call it.
Yeah.
And then I also have my meds, but those 3 things have to be in my life all the time.
For sure. I like how you mentioned that it's important to be guided, to help not do this alone, not be alone in this whole process. And I absolutely love that, because it's a little bit about community, or it's a lot about community, but it's also about that one-on-one. This has always been my biggest thing, is there's always this hesitancy for folks to get a coach. Even I had it. I'm like, I'm not going to even waste my time on nothing like this, right? Until I actually got a coach and was like mind blown, right? That this is something everybody needs, even if you feel like you are successful. I remember getting a coach, and I was sharing this with my godbrother, and I was like, yeah, I have a coach for my career. And he was like, why do you have a coach for your career? Because in his mind, I was successful.
Right.
He thought I was really successful. And I was, and I started, I just did like a laugh out loud emoji. And I was like, well, to help me get to where I want to be. Right? Where you see I am, you might be like, that's where you find success, but I'm not really satisfied with where I am because I'm not comfortable doing what I'm doing, right? Just kind of back to what you said. You're great at being a lawyer. Great. But it just wasn't a fit. And it was very similar to me. I was great in this particular data discipline that I was working in, but I just felt like something's not sitting well with me. I'm just kind of going through the motions. It's easy. It's good. It's financially great. All of those things. Yeah, I switched into coaching because that is where I think I could really be of service and use my experience as a way to help others who have the passion in those spaces where I didn't, to help them get to where they needed to be. And that coach is important. So you have transitioned to coaching. That's why I did that whole spiel, because I want you to tell me a bit about what you do in your services.
So I work with really 3 categories of people. I work with creatives, mostly writers, where they might be stuck or they might just have questions. I'm a bit like a writing social worker where I have a ton of resources. I've been a ton of places, have a lot of experience, and I know a lot of people. And so I can put them in touch with people that can help them, ask them questions, give them tools to help them work through that. And then I do the same thing for athletes, mostly runners, and a few lawyers too, where they just have gotten to the place in their career where they're trying to figure out, do I need to leave this practice, or do I need to leave this legal job? Or is there a way to transition? Is there a way to transform the current job? Or can I find a different job that will fit me better? Or, is this something where I just need therapy? Because sometimes it's not, just therapy, ha ha ha. But sometimes it's something where it's an internal thing where you can do a shift internally and fix a lot of problems. Sometimes it's a toxic work environment and you need a different job, and that's just it. Yeah. And a lot of times you can't see that. Like, I can't see myself very well. That's why we have mirrors.
Yeah.
And a coach is sometimes just a mirror. It's someone who can reflect back to you what you can't see, what you can't hear yourself saying, what you may not be ready to hear. And they can also help you with tools. So that's what the thing I do. I use some personality typing tools where I find out what someone's fears are, the things that light them up. I try to find that. And then I use the meditation practice of mindfulness. I call it a reality-based practice where you're learning how to be with what is without fighting it all the time. So you're not wasting a bunch of energy. So yeah, that's my coaching practice. And I don't take a lot of clients and I don't advertise a lot because I want it to be the people who really are the right fit for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've been kind of coaching on and off for many, many years, but really stepped into it more recently with more vigor because the books have brought people to me and people have started asking me more for my help because I have it. I have the skills and I have the tools and I have the resources to help people. And that's a great thing. If you can do that, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Just a quick last little plug. You have 3 books out: Depression Hates a Moving Target, Make Every Move a Meditation, and A Daily Dose of Now. Those are the 3?
Actually, I have a 4th one, which is called You Should Be Writing. And it's a writing journal. So it's a blank book, but it has author quotes in it to help kind of inspire you and instruct you if you're wanting to write. So that's a little bit different. But the 3 wellness books are the ones that you named.
Awesome. Hey, check my girl Nita out, folks. This was a good one. And I'm sure you're going to find a little bit more inspiration than what we gave here because this just wasn't enough time. So, Nita, do you have any golden nuggets you want to add some ketchup just to recap?
Well, the thing I always like to leave people with is it may seem a little dark, but just stay. Don't leave. So I don't mean stay in a bad job, but hang in there long enough to find the resources, to feel the miracle, to learn the lesson, whatever it is. Because a lot of people split too quick and they do that sometimes in the worst way possible. And sometimes it may be symbolic where they kick out of a job too quick, but just stay where you're at long enough to find out what you really need to know. So stay.
Absolutely. A great close. That's the episode today. I completely understand finding relief and feeling like you are finally getting back to a sense of normalcy. When you find a healthy solution, we will bet all the chips because we know it's worth the risk. That's before life throws another gut punch. That's why I appreciate Nita for sharing her personal journey and how she was able to overcome the odds and not only break even, but have enough to spread the love. Perhaps you have a similar experience with finding healthy solutions, having that interrupted, and then finding your way back. How were you able to gauge the risk versus reward? I love it all, and so will someone else. Before I let you go, Nita, why don't you go ahead and remind the people who you are, where they can find your resources or reach out to you?
Well, again, I'm Nita Sweeney. The best place to find me is my website, and it's nitasweeney.com, nitasweeney.com. I have a newsletter. I'd love you to sign up. That's really the best way. Thank you so much, Krystal.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'll make sure to include all of Nita's resources and connections in the episode description, as well as on my website's resources page, movingwithmeaning.com. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show, Moving With Meaning the podcast, and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. I am on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We are creating a community. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at movingwithmeaning82 and on Pinterest at Arthur KB Clark. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn. I do dabble in TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. My Etsy store has some handy-dandy digital downloads. Lastly, run over to my YouTube channel and have a look or two. Links are in the episode. Alrighty, I'm Krystal on Moving With Meaning the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have meaning. Check y'all later.